What does the Confederate flag represent to you? Does it represent racism or does it represent heritage? I believe the Confederate flag represents racism, and I will give several occasions from history that back this statement. The Confederate flag originated in 1861 during the Confederacy and was flown by several Confederate armies, one of the armies being led by General Robert E. Lee. General Robert E. Lee's soldiers kidnapped free black farmers and sold them into slavery. They were encouraged to beat slaves that tried to run away, and they fought to protect the institution of slavery, as stated in Teen Vogue magazine. After General Robert Lee's death, the flag was used by multiple groups, multiple people, and multiple organizations that disagreed with the civil rights movement that gave rights to black people. Over 50 years later, in 1946, a Dixiecrat political party was founded, which consisted of Southern white Democrats. This party supported the advocacy and advocated for racial segregation and used the Confederate flag to represent resistance to the federal government because they granted civil rights to black people, as stated in Teen Vogue magazine as well. The next occasion in history that made the Confederate flag represent racism would be Brown versus the Board of Education. It was a huge court case that is still talked about to this day, and it is also still taught to students in school today. Brown versus Board of Education ended with declaring segregation illegal. 6 years after that court case, Ruby Bridges was a student who went to she was the first black student who went to the all-white school down south. When she got to the school, she was met by a crowd of white people who threw stones at her, called her the N-word, and waved the Confederate flag as they did that. The Confederate flag is also used by the largest group of racists, the Ku Klux Klan, to symbolize racism and hate. In an episode of the show, What Would You Do? An actor is paid to wear a jacket in public with a huge Confederate flag on it, while another actor says something to him, saying his jacket represents slavery. The people around know nothing about this or that the reaction is being recorded. There were multiple reactions given in a grocery store and also in a restaurant. Multiple reactions to the jacket in were from every group of people, were all different ages, sexes, and races, except one group agreed the jacket represented racism. Wearing the Confederate flag was compared to wearing a shirt with a Nazi swastika by one group of people, which represents racism in another form. On the show, What Would You Do? After seeing the Confederate flag on the gentleman's jacket, one lady says, and I quote, "We've been through it, we ain't trying to go through it again. We ain't trying to see that symbol," unquote. The problem is that the Confederate flag is still widely used today, prominently down south, even though it symbolizes racism and white supremacy. It is flown in front yards, on the back of people's trucks, on clothing, and is sold at multiple stores. Many students are able to wear it on clothing to school and not get in trouble or dress coded. Well, if I wore this shirt to school, I would be sent home or sent to the nurse's office to change. To this day, people of color are still fighting for their rights with the Black Lives Matter movement, so by displaying the Confederate flag, it is not only disrespectful, but making it harder for colored people to be treated fairly like they should be. Many may disagree with this, saying it represents heritage still, but the disgraceful, disgusting connection to racism it has outweighs any good aspect about it. The process may not be able to be done overnight, but change can happen, and I think we can all do this together.